10 random cards, day 255. Let's ride. First card of the day is Forest. So it's going to rhyme eventually. I'm going to be so happy when it happens. This is the second day this week. We've gotten a basic land first. These don't count. Megatons Fate is the first card of the day. In fact, this from Fallout. A lot of Fallout this week. It's like the fifth one. This is a 6 mana, 5 and a red for a sorcery. Choose one. Disarm. Destroy target artifact. Create 4 treasure tokens. You can also detonate. Megatons Fate deals 8 damage to each creature. Each player gets 4 rad counters. Whatever the heck those are. I forgot. Anyway, 8 to each creature for 6 mana should take everything out. It probably does. So I like that about it. And destroy target artifact, but I guess it becomes shatter at sorcery speed at that point. It pays you back 4 treasure tokens. And maybe you get something for them coming into play. Or maybe you get something for them going to the graveyard, right? It fixes your mana. I kind of like that ability. But 6 mana to destroy an artifact is a bit ouch. But you can't say you're losing mana value on it because you're probably not most of the time. Altogether, this is pretty cool. This actually is okay. It's no Blasphemous Act or anything, but I guess it's a decent backup to Blasphemous Act and still works with all your, Screaming Nemesis and like all the stuff you want to deal damage to. So, I don't know. It's kind of neat. I can't hate this too much. I'll give it a 5.6. Could possibly be better than that. It really could. But next is Seal of the Guild Pact from Commander 2015. This is 5 mana for an artifact. As Seal of the Guild Pact enters the battlefield, choose 2 colors. Each spell you cast that costs 1 less to cast. Each spell you cast costs 1 less to cast for each of the chosen colors that it is. So if you chose green and white and you're casting a spell that costs 2 green white, it actually costs just green white. In that case, costs 2 mana to cast. So you could do some fun stuff with this. The problem is that it costs 5 mana to get on the table in the first place. But it works really, really well with any deck that's, 2-color commander deck, which I think a lot of them are, Maybe not the majority, but a lot of people play in 2 colors. So I like it, but I don't like it enough to necessarily be fooled by it, right? So I'm going to give this a 4.65, but I don't actually know if it's even that good, to be honest. A really tempting card, though. Super tempting Magic card. We'll move on to, it's Grand Abolisher. Let's get him looking normal here. This is, well, right there he's wearing a hat. There's a bunch of versions. You see how this one, the original printing from Magic 2012, you see how this one looks like a Magic card. And this one, well, not that one. That one looks fine. But this one is wearing a cowboy hat and a fur coat with cactus stuff on it, which is cool. Don't get me wrong, it's cool. I don't necessarily have any hatred for the way the card, he's got a little fox head on his hat. That's interesting. That's neat. Ultimately, I don't absolutely hate this just because there's cactuses and a cowboy hat on it. But I will say I like this one more because it looks like a Magic card. Again, I'm being an old man. 2 white mana for a 2/2 human cleric. During your turn, opponents can't cast spells or activate abilities of artifacts, creatures, or enchantments. They can do lands, right? But I guess if they find a way to activate like a planeswalker at instant speed, they can. But either way, this is still like $10 to buy in every form because it's crazy. It's a really, really good Magic card. Voice of Victory is not quite this because your opponents, if you have a Voice of Victory, they can still activate abilities of stuff. But we've seen how good Voice of Victory is recently. And how many people are slotting that into Commander. And it's for the same reasons in a lot of ways that Grand Abolisher is good. Grand Abolisher is also in the sideboard of some of these Omniscience decks from time to time in Standards. So just kind of make sure that they can lock the combo in place without interaction. Just a really, really good card that sees play not only in any competitive environment that it's printed into, but obviously a lot of Commander play. Just a strong card in a vacuum. And once it gets outside the vacuum too, it's a pretty synergistic card. It just makes sure that you can do all the things you want to do unbothered, which is a pretty good feeling in a game of Magic. It's like you're playing Pokemon or something. It's my turn, don't bother me. So this I will give this I'll give an 8.32. This is an incredibly strong Magic card. The ability to go about your turn unbothered without fear of interaction is insane. It just really is. So we'll move on to Silverchase Fox from Innistrad. This is 2 mana, 1 and a white for a 2/2 Fox. You can pay 1 and a white and sack it to exile an enchantment. I guess exile is relevant here, but we have seen a lot of creatures like this. Lonesome Unicorn or whatever. Isn't that just a sacrifice? You don't even have to pay the mana, Nobody plays that card, even though it's halfway decent. So I'll just give Fox. I like this version with the brightened up art. Let me say that. Even though it doesn't matter at all. But, the original Innistrad one looks like that. Conspiracy lightened things up a little bit more. And then with Battle Bond, they really chose the, boost color option in their editor. I think that just looks much better. But anyway, I'm going to give this a 3.3. I think that it has its uses, but you probably won't utilize them. Next is Brcella, Voice of Nightmares. This is from Eldritch Moon. You actually have to meld this together, don't you? Yeah, so what this actually is Bruna and Gisela. How do you rate cards like this? Let's just rate them all. Bruna the Fading Light is 7 mana for a 5/7 Angel Horror. When you cast it, you may return an angel or human from your graveyard to the battlefield. It also has flying, and it has vigilance. Okay. And then Gisela the Broken Blade, I think is the better of these. 4 mana, 2 and double white for a 4/3 Angel Horror. It's legendary. Flying, first strike, lifelink. At the beginning of your end step, if you both own and control Gisela and a creature named Bruna, exile them, meld them into Brcella, Voice of Nightmares, at which point you get a 9/10 legendary Eldrazi. That's also an angel. Flying, first strike, vigilance, and lifelink. Your opponent can't cast spells with converted mana cost 3 or less. All right, so Bruna right now is about $1.75. Gisela is like, oh my god, she's like $20. Like I said, I think she's the better of these. Flying, first strike, lifelink on a 4-power creature is just good in your Angels deck. It's just good. It just is fine. And then you might as well, if you're playing Angels, throw Bruna in as well, so that you can sometimes get Brcella. But, Gisela is the marquee sort of creature here. And altogether, I think that this is pretty phenomenal, even if it didn't have the rest of this text on it. Just 4 mana for a 4-power flying first strike lifelink is playable in decks that care about the creature type especially. So I'm going to give Gisela a 5.3. I'm going to give Bruna a 4.4. I do think that she's really good for reanimating and stuff like that. And then Brcella is kind of an NA rating, you know what I mean? But the card is obviously extremely powerful. They can't cast spells with converted mana cost 3 or less. Jeez Louise. So this card is like a 9 once it's out. But again, I don't think that scoring really counts. I think Gisela is just a little bit over what I'm looking for in a playable Magic card. And then Bruna is not amazing, and I would never play her by herself, I don't think. Also, you can't just reanimate this or whatever. You have to cast it. It's cast trigger. So that might hamper your style. You can't like blink it and get more stuff back. That makes it a little bit worse. So all things considered, I don't think Bruna's an amazing Magic card, but she's still relatively strong for a couple of obvious reasons. So I'm not sure how much I like the total package, but I've ranked both cards. We'll count it just as one card. But next is, Kumbage Wishes with this cool Seb McKinnon art here. But I like the old school Arabian Nights art. Slow down. This is the coolest looking version of the card to me, but the Chronicles version is the one that I'm sort of most familiar with in my Magic playing life. This is double black for a 1/3 human wizard nowadays. Used to be Summon Witches. Tap Kumbage Wishes deals 1 damage to target creature or player. Witches also deals 1 damage to a creature or player of target opponent's choice. Choose your target first. So it won't ever die to its own ability, which is pretty sick. Right. This was actually really good back in the day. This could blow up a lot of X1s that we cared about back then. It could blow up other Royal Assassins on the other side of the table and stuff, all the way up to 3 mana value. So this could tap to destroy a ball lightning that your opponent just played. That was a big deal. And honestly, even all the way up to now, we see how good like a card like Orcish Bowmasters is. Just the ability to get 1 damage out of your black 2-drop that can target anything can be really, really good. So Kumbage Wishes definitely had a place in Magic history, and it still does because it was a playable Pauper card up until a few years back, and it may still be. Haven't really kept up with Pauper, but there was a mono black deck in Pauper that was kind of budget for a long time, for like the first 5 or 6 years of that format. There was a really cheap mono black deck, and Kumbage Wishes was like always a 4 of in that deck. You also get this awesome like Kaya Foglio. Any folio art is going to be good, whether it's Phil or Kaya. The folios are always amazing. So, and forever I thought it was Foglio or Foglio, but apparently it's Folio from what I understand. So, from what I've been told. But either way, Kumbage Wishes, I'm going to give the honorary 5 to. Haven't passed one of those out since like Monday or something. So I think we're due for one, you definitely have a place in history. And honestly, if I had to rate this fairly, it wouldn't be too far off a 5. This card is still okay. It really is. But next is Nomad Outpost. We have rated these before, don't have to, but these like tricolor lands are always Ds. Maggot Carrier from Plane Shift is up next. This is a single black mana for a 1/1 zombie. When it comes into play, each player, yourself included, loses 1 life. Believe it or not, we kind of played this back in the day. There were decks that were kind of trying to deal damage to themselves, and it was usually stuff like Carnophage and this that would kind of do some of the lifting in that department. So it's not like this card's never seen play, but it's obviously not that great. I'm going to give you a 2.4 nowadays, buddy. Sorry, love you. Next, it's Izzet Charm, originally from Dual Decks Izzet versus Golgari, but really returned to Ravnica. This is a blue and a red for an instant. Choose 1 counter target non-creature spell unless its controller pays 2, or Charm deals 2 damage to target creature, or draw 2 cards, discard 2 cards. What an incredible Magic card. It's one of the better 2 mana charms ever printed, and I will go to my grave on that one. I really do think this might actually be the best. I'm sure that there's something I'm forgetting right now. Like Dawn Charm is pretty good. There are good 2 mana charms. But Izzet Charm is really fantastic. I think this is better. I know people might say Boros Charm in the comments, but for the purposes of what we're doing here, Casual Commander, I think Izzet Charm is better. So I'm going to give this card a 6.6. And I mean every 10th of a point of that score. This is at least a 6.6, if not higher. This just goes in every Izzet deck in Commander, and that's a lot of decks. It does that for a reason, too. This isn't overplayed or overvalued in Commander. It's just a solid Magic card that does, something every time. It always has something to do no matter what, which you actually can't say about all the charms. Some of them are a little situational. This literally, no matter what you're doing in a game, can find something to do. So that means a lot. But next is Swamp. Doesn't count. Tributary Instructor from Lost Caverns of Ixalan is 6 cents for a rare right now. This is 4 mana, 3 and a green for a 4/4 Merfolk Shaman with Mentor. Whenever a creature you control with a +1/+1 counter on it dies, draw a card. Hold the phone here, actually. That's better than it looks. That's a buried treasure right there. Even though Lost Caverns just came out a couple of years ago, I think this is one that we might need to re-examine. That's 6 cents for this ability is not bad. In a +1/+1 counter deck, obviously. Are you going to pay 4 mana for this when you're paying 4 mana for so many other cards in your deck? Even in Commander, you have to curve. You know what I mean? You can't have 34 drops. So I don't know, but that is a pretty tempting ability, actually. I feel like you draw a lot of cards with that. And there's got to be combos, right? Got to be combos with this. What is it? Not Persist, but the other one. The one that they come into play with a +1/+1 counter. Instead of Persist, it's the other one. And so when they die the second time, you draw the card. And that could be good. There's so much you could do with this. There are creatures that just come into play naturally with +1/+1 counters on them, like Stolen Coil, Serpent, and creatures like that. So, this is good, right? Am I crazy? You guys tell me if I'm crazy in the comments. I like this a lot. I'm going to give this oh my goodness, am I? I'm going to give this a 5.3, man. I think this is pretty good, dude. Tell me why it's bad. I think it's all right. But next, and apparently last of the day, is Genesis Hydra here. This is a pretty good Magic card. Originally from Magic 2015. Double green and X for a 0/0 plant Hydra. When you cast Genesis Hydra, reveal the top X cards of your library. You may put a non-land permanent card, convert a mana cost X or less for among them onto the field, then shuffle the rest into your library. Hydra enters the battlefield with X +1/+1 counters on it, designed by George Fahn. So it's an invitational card. And a good one at that, man. This has, throughout the years, seen some amount of play in competitive environments, mostly because you generate a bunch of mana, and this just guarantees a wild permanent off the top of your library. And you can do that even better in Commander, where this card also saw some play, as is kind of evidenced by the number of Commander sets it's been printed into. 1, 2, 3, 4 at the very least. This has seen a fair amount of play in that format, but I'm not sure that it actually does anymore. But Wizards was pushing it in the last couple of years. It's been printed in 3 Commander products. So they're like, hey, remember Genesis Hydra? I promise it's good. And it is. It actually is. A lot of Commander decks can generate, 8 mana, and then suddenly you're looking at the top 6 and putting a huge non-land permanent, right? from anything you want. It could even be a boat onto the battlefield. So, yeah, I think the Genesis Hydra is still like a pretty respectable commander card. I'm going to give this right at... No, a little higher. I'm going to give this a 5.2. I really think that this is more than a meme nowadays. I have to believe that. 5.2. A bonus card of the day if you're into it. Oh, wow, we hit big on this one. It's Toki, Bearer of Secrets. Only about $2 from Bloomburrow Commander. That's a pretty good price, dude. Same thing, though, with the original printing from Kaldheim, only $2. 4 mana, 3 and a green for a 1/1 legendary squirrel that can't be countered and has indestructible. It attacks each combat of Fable, and whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. Just an insane magic card, dude. This goes in a lot of green commander decks. It often goes in green commander decks it doesn't really have any business in. I've noticed, but it basically has business in everything, I guess, is the counter to that, you know. This sort of Bite into Thassa, combat research, there's like a million cards that do this, and often they cost 4 mana. But they also don't have indestructible. It doesn't really matter that this is a creature. For most intents and purposes, it is actually less removable than a Coastal Piracy or a Reconnaissance Mission or a card like that would draw a card whenever you deal combat damage. So pretty wild. Pretty wild little dude here. And even though he doesn't stay up to block or anything because of the provoke on him, he still just doesn't die to basically anything when he does get in, so who cares? He can never be countered, which is excellent. And he just leads to a ton of card advantage, especially if you have like flying, unblockable, or even trample creatures, which you should have in your green deck. Toki, again, is a massive hit. I'm going to give this a 7.1. I think this is a more than solid magic. Actually, no, let's go higher, dude. 7.35 on Toki. This is an excellent magic card. It really is, man. No getting around that. But whew, sometimes you hit the bonus card and you just, man, that wheel lands on a big number. And I think it did this time. It's maybe the best card of the day in a lot of ways. But that is it for today. I will see you on Friday, everyone. Thanks for being here. Bye.